On top of the hindbrain sits the midbrain. The midbrain is primarily responsible for processing emotional information. All of the sensory input coming into the brain passes through these areas where it is emotionally processed. This processing takes place in two dimensions: an emotional variance, which is experienced as either a positive or negative feeling, and an emotional intensity, which is experienced as a level of energy. A good way to conceptualize emotional intensity is as if you're thinking about like a scale of energy that ranges from, let's say, 1 to 10, with 1 being very slight and 10 being unignorably intense. This means attention is directed by emotion. And though ostensibly a subconscious automatic process, it is another one of those points where the brain makes an abstract judgment about its thoughts without being conscious of it. And the judgment of emotional variance is kind of a big deal because this judgment will dictate how all of our higher level thought processes approach the situation. For example, in a classroom, the professor will likely garner most of your attention, both because you place a relatively higher emotional value on your professor than most of the other things in the room, but also because you value your education. However, if you're sick, you have a sick parent or a child at home, you're going to find your attention moving away from class into thoughts of them because they command a higher emotional value, even though they may not even be in the classroom at that moment. More than this, if there were an explosion outside of the classroom, well, we'd expect your attention to be immediately drawn to this potential threat, and you would experience a corresponding emotional surge of energy to prepare you for action. This is called an acute stress response. During these events, a midbrain structure called the amygdala compels action, and a cascade of neurotransmitters prepare you for the physical demands of a life-threatening situation. Now, the more frontal areas of the brain can exert some control to calm us down, but after this stress response has been triggered, emotion gets first dibs. And while it is unclear exactly how this subconscious judgment is made, we again see a blended relationship between conscious and subconscious automatic control. It has even been shown that your internal feelings about your experiences of feeling those feelings can impact your response to this neurological fight or flight response. There are, cognitive strategies that you can use to mitigate the intensity of the experience, but inversely, there are ways of thinking about your feelings that it can intensify your emotional response. In fact, I would suggest that everyone become educated in the many strategies that can be used to manage an acute stress response, because there are both physical and environmental conditions like hyperthyroidism or post-traumatic stress disorder, where your thinking can send your biology into this terrible feedback loop. Understanding this process and the use of specific strategies like taking space, deep breathing, these things can sometimes be the determining factor of whether or not a person is able to maintain self-regulation in these difficult situations.